discussion to look in on the chat. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and we will get things started. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of an overview of what the Great Resignation is, and our panelists are going to discuss about how there really is an opportunity for everyone. So even though we've got a little bit of a resignation going on right now and over the last couple of years, I think we're going to find there's an opportunity for everyone. Okay. Recording is in progress. So the Great Resignation. This is also being called the Big Quit, and it's also being called the Great Reshuffle, which is very interesting. And you'll see why it's called the Great Reshuffle as I keep going through this opening dissertation. Some optimists even call this the Great Reinvention. No matter what you call it, it remains an ongoing trend that began in the first quarter of 2021, maybe even sooner, and has been gaining momentum due to multiple forces, things like low pay, lack of respect in the workplace, issues with childcare because of the pandemic, work overload. All of this has culminated in a mass exodus to change career direction, incorporate family values, and introduce new self-care and work-life balance. Now, because of the prevalence and significance of this current event, and because we're coaches, ICF South Florida has assembled a select panel of coaches from a variety of perspectives, including mindset, life transition, business, and leadership, and well-being, to discuss what they're experiencing and how they're working with businesses and individuals to navigate these rough waters. But before we introduce our panel, let me just run a few numbers to help you understand the scale of the issue. So according to the US Department of Labor, 48 million people quit in 2021. Now that's an increase of 23% from pre-pandemic 2019. In fact, 4.5 million quit just this past March. Now the biggest shifts are coming in four main areas, according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics. Number one, hospitality, no surprise there. Number two, professional and business services. Number three, healthcare. And number four, retail. Now, none of this is particularly surprising as these are very demanding jobs and most of them require us to stand on our feet all day. And as we all know, the pay is not great in hospitality, healthcare, and retail. The one outlier is professional and business services, though. And that's likely due to the fact that people really want to work from home. They got a taste of it during the lockdown and they found out, I kind of like this. Problem is, businesses aren't quite there yet. They still want people to come to the office. So there's a little tug of war going on with the remote worker. The encouraging news is that people are not necessarily quitting to sit on the sidelines. In fact, the US Labor Department has reported that unemployment claims are the lowest level they've been since January of 1970. Turns out, instead of filing for unemployment, people are looking for better pay and better opportunities. The other good news is employers are starting to take notice. Pay rates are increasing. They're up about 5% last year, and this trend does seem to be continuing in this year as well. So even though people are quitting in record numbers, many of them are looking for the right opportunity because 11.5 million job openings are being reported as we speak. Now, the other great news is the rate of hiring is higher than the rate of resignations in every major industry. And that's indicating that workers are really not retiring. They're just moving to other jobs, most likely in the same sector. So what we want to know is, why are people really finally leaving? And according to the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 63% are dissatisfied with their pay. Another 63% reported that, not another 63, my bad, 63% also reported that they believe they have better opportunities for advancement in other places. And 57% feel they are disrespected or not valued at work. Now, with all of that being said and the foundation set, let's meet our panel of coaches to learn what they think about the Great Resignation and see how they work with their clients, whether businesses or individuals, to help them find an opportunity for everyone. And now I'd like each panelist to briefly introduce themselves. And first up is going to be Victor Gonzalez Galeano. Victor.
Jimmy, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So excited to be here. I am Victor Gonzalez Galeano with the Personal Wellbeing Coaching Center in your ICF South Florida VP of Membership, proud to volunteer for such organization. I serve executives and entrepreneurs who are experiencing burnout, job dissatisfaction, and work-life balance by applying a holistic approach to personal well-being that allows them to navigate and excel at home, work, and community without compromising their well-being. Redefine. We support executives and entrepreneurs by elevating their performance and profitability, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Excellent, Victor. Thank you so much. Next up, Patricia Rothstein.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patricia Rothstein, and I have, for many, many years, have two kind of parallel lives, which have to do with my two passions in life. And one is psychology. I'm a psychotherapist. And the other one is business. And about 10 years ago, I started working as managing national real estate companies. And I found out at that point that I could bring those two paths together and that they actually went hand in hand very, very well. So I went into coaching, and to my surprise, I realized that the problems that my agents, I managed about 700 agents, and I realized that the problems that they had were never lack of information. They had to do with their mindset and their limiting beliefs. So that's why these two fields are a natural match. And I saw that in my practice. So that's what I do. I help people work with their limiting beliefs and with their mindset so that they can thrive in business and in their private lives.
Excellent. Thank you, Patricia. Next up, I have Nada Haddad.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jimmy. So my name is Nada Haddad. I'm a life transition coach. I became a coach because I wanted to help people navigate their life transitions, whether professional or personal. I myself have been through different life transitions, whether big or some very small. First, I'm French and Lebanese, so don't be surprised if there are some French words that come out. Huh? I have lived and worked in France, in Lebanon, in Italy, in Dubai, and now in Miami. I have been in 3 different industries, whether as an employee or an entrepreneur. I've been in the hospitality business for 15 years as a consultant and in operation. I've opened my own restaurant and I've closed my own restaurant. I shifted into marketing for a furniture design company, and then I launched my e-commerce website. The biggest transition of my life would have been to become a mother of 2 wonderful girls and 2 very demanding cats. And I think my biggest takeaway, not I think, but I'm sure, my biggest lesson through all those transitions would have been to understand how life is all about chaos and bumps and transitions, and how we need to effectively prioritize and choose where our energy goes. Thank you very much for inviting me to today's conversation. I'm very happy to be here.
Absolutely. Nada, thank you. And welcome to Miami.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, please welcome Suli Pirino Arjanis.
Thank you. Thank you for having me in the panel. I was born in Brazil, but moved to New York, raised in New York since middle school. And I have a business degree, dedicated a lot of my life in international business. I'm a graduate from Baruch. And as a global business development, I started as an employee and ended up as an entrepreneur running a company and developing business in over 20 countries. Being multicultural and multilingual, I've always seemed to understand that there was something missing, and a missing link between life and and business, which led me to eventually through, how can I say, challenges in life, in not only personal, but also in my business and parents. I started volunteering, creating an area for professionals that were in transition. And with that, everybody started calling me a coach. And that's when I started to dive in what is coaching. And knowing what was going on around the market and what's happening to professionals and people in business, I became a coach, understanding I'm an ICF accredited, I'm IPEC professional coach, and I do also assessments in business. I became a consultant. In parallel to all that, I have been part of what science and spirituality for over 26 years, the study of both, and became a Reiki master and applying holistic tools because there was always a missing link between people at work, leaders of companies, and the satisfaction of both. So I dedicated to that area where many different techniques will help during the times of uncertainty, the more awareness that's happening, the consciousness decisions, and bringing that to leaders, companies, and teams. So I love to be part of this team.
Thank you, Suli. And last but not least, Eric Goris.
Thanks. Thanks, Jimmy. That's awesome intro. And thanks to all the other panelists for being here in their intros. Truly a talented and awesome group of people bringing an awesome group of experience to the discussion. So it's great to be here with you. So my name is Eric Goris. I've been in Miami for about 5 years, specifically Miami Beach. And I was in New York City for 23 years before that. And during those 23 years in New York and 5 in Miami, I've sort of split my time between working for very large organizations, large media organizations, publishing houses. And when that got disinteresting, moving and starting my own businesses. And I've done about 5 startups. I guess number 6 would be running a coaching business, right? So what I do as a coach is I help entrepreneurs and executives. This is the way it goes, the sort of the if-then statement. Help the entrepreneurs and executives stop, freak out, and get control of their businesses. And if they can't get control of their businesses or their business divisions or their work, then I help them retool. I help them. I think Nada is very courageous. You know, she opened a restaurant, she closed a restaurant. People need help with that too. I do this because executives, it started with entrepreneurs. They get themselves in a lot of trouble. They get in over their head and they need help and they need backup. And I provide that. I learned that lesson with 2 of my startups, 3 actually, in a very dramatic fashion. And after the 3rd time, I was like, I'm going to help with this instead of repeating this. So that's why I became a coach. The same thing happens in the executive realm as well. People get promoted beyond their own limiting beliefs. Imposter syndrome issues start to creep in, and they need help adjusting with the freak out. So like I say, I work with my clients, we fix their situation. If we can't fix their situation, then we change their situation. So that's what I do and why I do it. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Great introductions. Really glad to be working with you all today. Eric, let me stay with you for a little bit. So speaking of freak out, the Great Resignation has a few people freaked out. Yeah. So I'm curious about, because I understand you're a little bit of a history buff. So tell me, what is the history of the Great Resignation? How the heck did we get here?
Yeah, and I'll try to be brief. I know we're trying to keep this under just a couple minutes, so I'll move quickly. But this is the end of almost a 2.5 decade growing dissatisfaction with the workforce. This started in the research that I've done. This starts all the way back to the year 1999 and 2000, where we had great enthusiasm around this new media, new internet, new ways of doing things, and that was a lot of enthusiasm in the workforce, and was quickly followed by a 2001 employment and stock market crash that lasted 2 years, right? The next time the workforce really gets back to business in a fast-paced way is 2005, right? And now 2005 to 2008, there's a new emphasis, and it's the life-work balance, right? Live your whole life. Everyone is trying to do what Victor is essentially coaching today. But they're, live your whole life. How does that work out? Well, in 2008, it doesn't work out. We have another crash in the housing market. We have another round of layoffs, and people are out on their butts again. So here's the second time that is, we put faith in the employers only to be shown the door, right? So then we come back from that around 2010 to 2015. Now it's about wealth accumulation, right? Things are moving fast, and people are starting to bring their chips in and earn their money, but something else is happening. And that social media is taking hold in mass, right? It's really getting large adoption around 2010. Thinking and emotions now, which have always been below the surface, are now exposed, because that's what social media is, right? We're broadcasting our thoughts and our emotions in mass to everybody, and they're getting amplified. And one of the things that's getting amplified is this dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction is now out into the conversation, and it leads to a bunch of amazing things. It leads to Harvey Weinstein. It leads to Me Too. It leads to toxic workplaces. It leads to jerk bosses. It leads to discussions about discrimination, pay inequality. All these things are now out in the open, and they're being discussed for good reason. Then, just as we're going through that, not to mention toxic politics, then 2019, pandemic hits, and 4 out of 10 people are unemployed, right? 4 out of 10 Americans, 4 out of 10 employed Americans lose their jobs, right? So again, we've put our faith in the employer, and we've been shown the door, all right? So now here we are, 2022, today, the stock market, again, is in free fall, right? And again, even though jobs are up, we're talking about, is there going to be a recession? The war in Europe, high interest rates, housing crunch. So now the question becomes to these employers, well, who can you trust, right? And the answer is, for many is, well, not the employer, obviously, right? Like I've tried this, and it has not worked out 4 or 5 times in a row. So now I'm going to come to some other things that we as coaches dig: self-actualization, self-reliance, focusing on oneself, self-prosperity. These are the things that people are looking for. And it absolutely manifested with things like work from home. The employees now are saying, we're in control, and we're going to make some of the rules. We're going to unionize at Amazon. We're going to speak up at Disney and say that we don't like legislation that's being passed. And if you don't like it, employers, then the Great Resignation. So that's it in a nutshell, as I see it.
Well, that is really well researched, and yeah, I would agree with a lot of that. That is, it is interesting, right? Because now we're saying, okay, the employees are trying to take it back, and the employers are really having a hard time letting it go, and so people are resigning for sure. Thank you, Eric. That's fascinating. So, my next question is for Victor. So, Victor, in hearing what Eric just said about all these people leaving because employees are dissatisfied with work and they're unionizing and whatever other kinds of things are happening right now, as an employer or a business, how can we attract new employees and retain the ones that we currently have?
That's an excellent question, and everybody knows the answer.
I don't.
We don't necessarily think of it. We got to start doing something different so we can get different results, because otherwise we're going to get the same. And the reality is that a lot of us are responding like we've responded in the past. Money. I'm going to give you more money. But money is not necessarily the answer, because at the end of the day, we may be attracted by the money, but then it's going to create an imbalance on the rest of your holistic well-being. And so here's where I come in with the importance of creating a greater awareness around our holistic well-being. And what I mean by that with an employer is, take us for who we are. Take us as a whole. Take us for our individuality and create a diverse environment in the workplace. Most of us have worked in environments where our managers have told us, leave your personal problems at the door. You only come here to work. And so we put ourselves a great deal of masks on. Well, time has arrived when the mask get to be off. And so you take me as I am, oh, I'm not coming in. And so well-being, holistic well-being, that is the catalyst for organizations that they to cultivate an environment of engaged and thriving employees who perform at their very best every day. Because if I know I am accepted for who I am, if I know I am liked for who I am, then I'm going to be who I am, and I'm going to perform my best. The employee's well-being will influence every aspect of any business performance, regardless of the industry. Why? Because if financial well-being is not what it needs to be in the minds of their employees, their performance is going to be affected at work. Because kindly, if they're not managing their money well, then they're going to bring those problems to work. Friends' well-being, as I call it, will impact the way they perform at work. Because if they don't have meaningful friend relationships, they're not going to find any meaningful relationship at work, and that is going to affect the performance. And we can call it the Great Resignation because of X or Y or Z. The way I see it, all of us are looking for our vocation as opposed to a place to go work. We already worked. Nada worked at a restaurant. Eric worked in marketing. Sully worked in businesses. Patricia, I'm a retired banker, but I'm not working anymore. I'm in my vocation. I love what I do. I'm passionate about it because I'm impacting people's lives. And that it's what it's all about. So you want to attract people, get them to do what they love.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's not going to work.
We are the early adopters of the resignation, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so. As coaches, yeah, we're the first ones to bail out, right?
Yeah. See you later.
Very, very interesting, Victor. Yeah, I think a lot of people would love to follow their passion, and I'm with you on that whole employers saying, bring your whole self, taking a holistic approach to a hire, because as we all know, and I don't know if everybody does this, but when I used to work for a company, when I would hire somebody, I would check their LinkedIn, I would check their Facebook, I would check their Instagram. I need to know who I'm hiring. I am not just hiring a person to sit at a desk and do some work. I'm hiring a whole person. So I know not all HR people do that, but I used to do that because I wanted to know the whole person that I was hiring. Did it affect hiring decisions? You betcha it did. So, and I don't think, that is out of bounds because you're hiring a whole person. I want to know the person I'm going to work with every single day. So I think that makes a lot of sense for employers to look at that and allow that person to come in with their whole self and be a little bit more authentic than we've traditionally been allowed to be at work. So really, really great. Patricia, I know that you're a mindset coach, and I am curious, what does mindset have to do with all of this? And what impact might it have in regards to the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffle?
So first, I would like to briefly share what I understand as mindset.
Thank
So
you.
we have our mind and we have our mindset. And our mind would be something like our eyes. Our eyes have certain characteristics that are more or less permanent. It can change, but it takes longer. And we have the same characteristics on a day-to-day basis. So if you have blue eyes, you had blue eyes yesterday, you have blue eyes tomorrow. Can you wear lenses to change the color or a filter. Yes, you can, but you get the point. Now, the mindset is kind of the lenses that you use to look at reality. So if you have astigmatism and you don't have the right lenses, you are going to see a distorted reality. Yeah. Or if you don't see from far away and you don't have lenses that are appropriate to seeing from far away, you're going to miss a lot of details from that reality, and that will have a very big impact on your results and on your satisfaction in life. So that's why mindset is very important. Now, how does it apply to this topic of the Great Resignation, the Great Reshuffle, or the Great, what was the other name?
The Great Reinvention could be a reinvention.
Yes, and I call it the Great Recycling, because we're actually recycling talents and strengths and life experience that we already have. We are recycling it and using it in a different way. So mindset is something that especially in this topic, if you don't have the whole picture, you are missing on a tremendous amount of possibilities. You are not taking full inventory of what you have to give as a professional, as a person. So as I said before in the introduction, there's never a problem of lack of information. You go into Google and you can find anything that you want. You go to Wikipedia, there's, information is not the problem. An example that's very easy to comprehend. People say they want to lose weight. Does anybody not know that eating cheesecake is not going to help that goal? No, we all know that. Why do we find ourselves eating cheesecake? Because of a mindset problem. So until and unless we work on our mindset, we are not going to be able to create the life and the job that we want. So
wow.
That's it.
So thank you, Patricia. So I don't know about everybody else in the room, but mindset has nothing to do with my desire to eat cheesecake for lunch and breakfast every day. As Patricia, you told us just yesterday that we have a second brain in our gut. So my second brain. That's true. Yes, that's a mindset. So maybe you're right. It is a mindset. I need to get off the cheesecake. Fair enough. Thank you very much for the warning.
It depends on your goals though, Jimmy.
Right. So
actually what your second brain in your gut is telling you is it's sending you a signal that you are experiencing some sort of emotion, because emotions are felt in the body, not in the mind. So there is a mindset in the gut, actually. Your gut also has a mindset. It's just that it speaks a different language, and we have to get familiar with that language.
And the gut receives all the emotions, which is the solar plexus in a sense, and also shares with the heart, triggers the brain, but it connects to the heart if you feel it.
Yep.
I think sometimes my my gut biome, all those little bacterias in there are wreaking havoc and making me do things that I don't want to do. So I'm not sure who's in charge. I think all those little bugs in my belly might be in charge of my brain.
But I think Patricia's right. The head, the heart, and the gut, right?
Yeah, all three of those. Yeah, definitely.
You know that they say that in the gut you have the brain of the size of a cat's brain.
I'm sorry, say that again.
In the gut, in our gut, we have the size of a cat's brain.
Well, I don't know how big a cat's brain is, but
like
you have a brain in your gut, and it's the size of a cat and a dog's brain.
Okay,
so like that capacity.
I like it.
We actually have more neurons in our gut than in our brain.
That I believe. Yeah, there's a lot of activity on both ends of that continuum on the spine. Let me go to Nada real quick, because we're talking about mindset, and mindset has to do with changing the way that we behave, whether it's a response to emotions or whether it's a response to what our environment is providing or our culture. So, Nada, I'm curious, because a lot of us have more of a fixed way of looking at things. So, why do you think it is that we're conditioned to have fixed plans? Not necessarily a fixed mindset, but fixed plans.
It's true. We do have in a certain way, we do have a fixed plan. There are two things that I think are important here. Sorry, there is a background sound. Okay. The first thing would be that, as we know, the brain is a prediction machine. So in order to protect us, we are naturally inclined to anticipate and plan things. It gives us a sense of control. The second thing I think that is important to note is that as a kid, we are trained to behave and to perform and not necessarily to enjoy. So we grow up doing things that society, culture, family expects from us. And we are conditioned to have those fixed plans, go to college, get a job. If we are a bit conformist, get married, have kids. And we are always pressured by success. So we often make decisions that society had already made for us. And we are conditioned without even realizing it. It's in our subconscious level. And we do have the freedom if we allow ourselves to have it. And I think that what happened with the pandemic is that people realized that things could go completely out of their control. Yep. And things could go out of, not the way they have planned it. And so they seized this opportunity to do things in a way that felt more aligned, like you were all saying, and that makes them happier.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, definitely something there I think there was definitely a large contingent of people who were, you're right. Anything can happen. You know what I mean? With watching the health be affected of everyone around us. I mean, it definitely gave us a lot to think about, I think, in terms of, we always say live today as if today's your last day, right? But when you start seeing people's last days all around you, it really puts a lot of meaning into that. And so, yeah, Nada, I think you're absolutely right. A lot of people did think about
the thing is that to add to this is that people realized that they could manage and they could handle an unplanned thing that could happen.
Excellent point.
So I agree 100% Nada with what you're saying. And if I may add something, the pandemic had an effect, kind of an electroshock. Mm-hmm. When they used electroshock, they didn't know really what was the mechanism and what happened, but what it created was like an electrical storm in the brain that's released a lot of neurochemicals. It flooded the brain, and that one of those neurochemicals gave impulse to act in a different way or awaken a different part. And the pandemic in a way did that to ourselves. Like it shook us so like a storm, like an electrical storm, that we became reacquainted with parts of ourselves that were asleep.
Totally agree. Yep, absolutely. Sometimes we need that good shakeup. Suli, I have a question for you. So what are some of the benefits that coaching provides? Because we've been talking a lot about the change and the not so great side of things. And yes, we know that there's, there are obviously some benefits and opportunities. It's in the title of our talk today. What are some of the benefits that coaching provides to individuals and even businesses when facing these challenges due to the Great Resignation right now?
Well, let me just add that the Great Resignation had also an empowering effect on many people that gave them clarity and allowed them to reconnect with themselves, to know what was important and what's not important. Businesses had to begin to value the people that worked for them. So that was a revelation. Coaches on their businesses had to also adapt to understanding a deeper knowledge of what was going within the individuals. Many that quit because they weren't heard started and opened their own businesses, facing challenges that they have never imagined would be so hard to run a business. Some of us had the experience. Some of us had to close a business, like I did. After 20 years, I closed a business because I had to take care of two parents with Alzheimer's. So nobody could really substitute and do what I did, even though I had the greatest people working for me and gave them the range to continue the job. But culture comes in when looking somebody in the eye or shaking hands, and to move forward, it's important. So understanding the basic human needs, I like to say that coach can humanize not only the leadership, but also the employees, because it's both ways. I dedicated my life to understanding the people's energy and about their feelings. So many people not only lost, let's acknowledge that 1 million people died and perished. So the burden on top of survival and also being secluded from the social environment that they were used to also created a new kind of situation that a lot of coaches stepped up to the plate and helped. So I believe that we are here to empower people, to bring clarity, to allow them to find their strength, to bring purpose. Because when you live in your purpose and your passion, you bring that energy to the workplace or to your own. So I think that the challenges the businesses are facing is not being able to let go of the old leadership styles where control and managing and people was the way to go, as opposed to identifying. Not only identifying is only part of the equation, but if you identify, are you going to allow them to flourish? If you identify their strength, are you going to embrace that? And that is also about diversity. It's not just about putting practices on the schedule or saying they have, but embracing their talents and the diversity. And that applies to any situation at work and applies to people trying to run their own business, is their understanding. So like Peter Druck used to say, the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence, it is to act with yesterday's logic. So we have to really readapt as coaches, also using the Great Resignation as a entry point to further our whatever's the missing link, what I call it, the disconnect between life and business. There should be no separation. You should be able to walk and talk what you believe and be accepted with that belief. So don't change hats when you go into work. And coaching, what I call core coaching, I'm just going to define, that's what I do. It's going down deep into the levels of what's important for that individual. Let that come out and surface what is hidden on the subconscious level to surface. Because what's on the subconscious level, you don't know until you open that door. And when you open that door and you have that moment, you realize things begin to make sense in your life. And when they begin to make sense, you walk differently, you behave differently, you bring your purpose to life. And that bringing that purpose to business is what's going to make them flourish. And I think that it gave people an opportunity to unite during the Great Resignation and say, hey, this is what we don't want. This is what we like. This is what we would like to see. And to me, the big indication began with the gig economy back in 2010, when people were saying, okay, companies, you're cutting my hours to 28 hours because you don't want to cover the benefits. Okay, so you know what? I need to have 3 jobs. I'm not happy. Yeah. And the change and the ability to recognize what made you perform and the return of your investment, ROI, at the end of the day of productivity is important, not only personal, but for business. Thank you guys for letting me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's you know, and there was a couple of things in there that really caught my ear that coaching can do for us, and that is help to resolve clarity, right? Because that's one of the things that a lot of people, individuals, have difficulty finding out the, you know, how do I gain some clarity? So whether it is understanding my values, which is a lot of where it all starts, understanding our values, making values-based decisions in our lives. I think following purpose is a nice to have. I think we would all, in a perfect world, love to follow our passion. I think as coaches, we're pretty fortunate to be able to do that right now if we are all passionate about our work. But not everybody has that opportunity. Not everyone has the ability, like you were saying, with the gig economy, with whatever the case is. It's not easy for everyone to do that, particularly if you're younger, you're just coming out of college, you've got a load of debt on hand. You know, what are we going to do? And because people are starting to gain a little bit more of independence in that area and gain that clarity of what they want to do, it brings me to a question for you, Victor. So it's and it goes back to a little bit about what you had said earlier about employee engagement. So how, as employers, can we improve employee engagement so that people want to stay with us and not want to bail out and go find a better opportunity somewhere else?
Jimmy, and you know, listening to Sully and your comments earlier, I will argue that the reality is that all of us can find our vocation. We may not find it right away, right after high school or college, but all of us can, if we want to, intentionally. Because the reality is that the work that we have in other companies can be utilized as a bridge, as an experience to take us to where we want to get to. Just like we're so fortunate that we ended up being the coaches that we are today as our vocation. To answer your question around how to improve employee engagement, we can start by measuring what matters most for employees' performance. Because the reality is, we need to start in-house. Who do we have? What are we doing? How do we measure performance? And then after we identify what is it, then we gotta act quickly. So the reality is we cannot be waiting, thinking about how we're gonna go. Let's go ahead and improve. Let's go ahead and change. Let's go ahead. If you have wings and you're ready to fly, just jump, fly with it, and make it an ongoing process. It cannot be like, all right, I'm gonna ask you some questions, I'm gonna determine what performance is, I'm gonna go ahead and implement it, and that's it. Okay, that's my plan for the rest. It's an ongoing process. We're gonna have to adapt and change with times and with people as we know it. Every time a different person joins our team, we have a total different team. So if we know this, then we have to adjust, but we don't adjust because this person just joined the team and that person is going to bring a total different perspective, a total different way of doing things. And undoubtedly, the letting go of the control and making sure that we empower those in a leadership position to drive engagement. Because all of the studies have already told us, why do people leave work if it's not because of their lack of caring from their leaders? And so empower them so they can drive that engagement. We know that 81% of absenteeism can be lowered. We know that 18% in sales can be increased. We know that 43% of turnover can be lowered when we do this, and 10% of customer loyalty can go up. So what is it stopping us from getting it done if it's not from us engaging our team in conversation and implementing what came out of that conversation, so they know that they have been heard, and make it an ongoing process.
Excellent. Thank you, Victor. Thank you very much. I did want to take a break from my questions to the panel to see if there was anything out in the audience. Leslie, is anybody got a question out there?
Shakti had a question, and I think Victor may have touched on it a little bit just now, in reference to the workplace environment and how for him in his experience, it has presented as extremes. For example, workaholic employees versus the other extreme of, it says the workaholic and or the total of devotee to their profession, or the one who does not connect at all with others, and how navigating that environment also as an employer, being stretched between those two dichotomies. And he wanted to know if that resonates with others on the panel or others in this chat.
Here's some. I'll let my teammates jump in if there's a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting point. There's something, I love that we're talking about opportunity, right? Because that's what this all is about, right? This is a big shift in the marketplace. And therefore, we all as coaches all understand that anytime something goes wrong, that's an opportunity, right? To get things right. So it's up to the employers to figure this out. Suli and Victor both spoke very deeply and passionately about bringing our whole identities to work. And I just wanted to touch on that as a little bit of a counter and maybe a caution. There's also an employee out there who their true self does not want to perhaps share at the same level as everyone else. So I would just encourage, as we work with our clients, to remember that there are those who truly prefer to keep their religion, their politics, their whatever.
Those should stay out of the workplace anyway, Eric. You know
That's
that.
correct. That's not part of the equation.
But yeah, any personal, family, or whatever.
No, I mean, when we talk about things like sexuality, right? I mean, that's a huge issue. And like I'm just saying that there needs to be space for the individual to also decline and step back and say, whatever. I love what Victor said about being results driven. If we've talked a lot about what the employees need. For a moment, I work with a lot of business owners, and the idea of switching from you've got to be in your seat, you've got to show up at work, you've got to be at the meeting, just come to the meeting, sit here, don't even say anything, just waste an hour with 6 other people. This kind of management style is old school and being pushed away. Some of my clients, and I've confirmed this with a couple of other coaches, are seeing much better results with results-driven stuff, as Victor was just talking about, where instead of talking about, are you here? Are you present? Did you come to work? Were you here at 9 o'clock? It's more about, what do we want you to perform, and can you perform that? And it pertains to work from home is a huge thing, an issue of contention right now. And this manifests in also the phenomenon of unlimited PTO or vacation days, right? Where these are sort of the opposite of the way things used to be. Working from home, unacceptable. Vacation, are you kidding me? But what's happening now is that when employers are giving these things to their workers, work from home, work whenever you want, work day, night, fill your quotas, and unlimited vacation, take as much as you want. What they're seeing, of course, and we probably know this, is that when you give someone unlimited vacation, they take less. They take less vacation, right? And depending on whether you think that's good or bad for your employees, that's a different debate, but they work harder. Same with work from home. They work more efficiently, they work better, and they're more effective. That's one group. And then these policies identify a second group, which is people who take advantage of unlimited paid time off and take advantage of working from home and don't hit their quotas. Mm-hmm. And then so at that point, it becomes equally easy to identify who's not sitting in the right seat, who's not working the right role, and I'm not saying we fire anyone. I'm saying we, see that as an opportunity to do something else with the person in that seat. So.
And it also has to do with creating a motivation that comes from inside, from internal focus of motivation as opposed to external motivation. Right. There are companies that want to impose bonding. So they force their employees to participate in activities like, okay, let's all put together a theater play and now we are going to have to dance and do this and that. Not everybody is up to that. And that is a forced bonding, which is not authentic, backfires. So I think we have to go back to what is motivation. Motivation cannot be imposed from outside. And it has to be, like it has to do with the values of the employee. It doesn't have to do with even with money, because when we think that we are accepting a job because of money, that's not going to last. Money is not a retention tool. It has to do with fulfilling a lot of our values, being aligned with who we are as a person, going back to what Victor was saying.
Yep.
So, and making sure, you mentioned, Jimmy, the hiring process, and that you did a lot of work trying to identify who the people you were hiring were in the outside world. And maybe part of that is also finding out what is their motivation for being in this position. If the motivation is only money, it's not going to work.
Right. Okay. And Suli, I see your hand is up. So go ahead and ask your question. If you had a question.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that when you bring your strength into the workplace or to whatever you're doing, and you bring your values in, doesn't mean that you don't have some basic rules that you have to be part of, because that's part of what society does. It's not a free-for-all, but if you have a person that is non-conforming to some of the basic that workplace requires, then it's not a good fit. Not everybody's going to be a good fit for every company. So it works both ways. It works from knowing your own core values, knowing what you can or cannot accept to bring the return of investment on what you are proposing to produce, and what the company is offering. So there shouldn't be a missing link. Money, it's a great attractive. I mean, you don't want to use your talents for no pay, but at the same token, if there is no congruence, then it's not going to work. So it's your core.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The idea that, we all know that it's not going to be a perfect match, and that's why we have different dream jobs, different dream companies we want to work for. We talked a little bit about the idea of employee engagement, and I asked the question in the form of what can employers do to improve employee engagement? And I'm a little bit of a devil's advocate kind of person. I can definitely take on both sides. So my question for whoever wants to answer is, we always put the pressure on the employer to, how do we keep people engaged? How do we keep them employed? What do we do to retain and recognize and all that? My question would be, how do we work with an employee? Like as coaches, we're an employee, or I'm sorry, as a coach, we're working with employees. How do we get them to re-engage with their work? Because there's a lot of talk about follow your passion. Well, some people don't necessarily have a set passion, but I will say you can be passionate about whatever it is you do, should you put your mind to it. So how do we work with our clients to get them re-engaged and reinvigorated into the workplace?
I can start.
I would I would say that we have to change the follow your passion for bring your passion wherever you go.
Love it.
It's
Exactly.
very different because every job is going to have aspects that it's not our cup of tea, that it's not our favorite thing in the world. But if we are able to connect and we can help our clients connect with their passion in a way that they can bring their passion and apply it to even the areas of their work that are not their favorite ones, they're going to have a much higher level of satisfaction.
Yeah. Excellent. Victor.
Could add to Patricia's comment, by bringing in your passion, then wherever you go, you're going to be satisfied.
Right.
And in today's environment, we have two great tools that can help us with that. PQ, or positive intelligence, helping you understand you for who you are so you can change you, because you cannot change the world, but you can change you and accept you for who you are. Is awesome. And then the second gift, it's Gallup Clifton Strengths, because that way you know your gifts and you know how to use them, and you can swim with the current as opposed to against the current. Then as an individual, you will know exactly where you're going to be excelling because you already know, as opposed to trying to do something that it's going to go against what your gifts are. So as a Gallup Strengths Coach certified, I strongly recommend that individuals, and it doesn't have the responsibility, it's not just on the employer. Anybody can take that assessment so they can get to know themselves better. And then when it comes to positive psychology, understanding your saboteurs and how they kidnap you and put themselves, hijack you in such a way that you perform less than what you can do. The responsibility is in each and every one of us, not on the employer. And so those two great tools are an opportunity for everyone to excel at work and at home.
Yes,
Right.
Eric.
Sorry.
Suli, you go ahead. I do have a small point to make, but go for it, Suli.
Well, I am a master practitioner on the ELI assessment, and the ELI assessment is an attitudinal assessment, which really everybody's heard about Myers-Briggs, DISC, and of course strength. But the ELI is a very different assessment. It's been really Forbes says is among the best 10 that you can take. Why? Because it's a tool that really captures how you currently perceive and approach work and life. A lot of it comes out that you didn't even know was within you and that is happening in your life. And it is it shows moments through interesting questions, very intrinsic, but very easy to take test in the sense that it shows and it brings out where your self-doubt, fear, or frustration is. And it's a unique assessment because it brings your attitude, not your personality, and also shows your strength, where you are today. Because sometimes our strength 5 years ago may have shifted. And what you're seeing yourself today after all the last challenges of the 3 years may have changed what your current strength is. So it's not only about where you are, but it's so unique. So it's an incredible tool that brings awareness and insights to what you are today. So.
Yeah, definitely. It's all about the energy. Eric, what do you got to add to that?
Well, I wanted to step back to the question of what can, from the business perspective, what can they do? Because the answer isn't from the employee's perspective. Yes, this is all true. As a business owner, the business owners, the people I work with are trying to address, yes, respect the employees, but at the same time, how do we motivate them? How do we set up business systems and processes that empower people and engage them. It was a question about engagement. And the answer is coming back for many of them in autonomy, in giving people and teams the freedom to execute against an objective and allow them to find their own way. Many people do have great passion. For many people, their great passion is their work. I think of a company like Boeing. These are people who truly live to build airplanes. And that is what they want to do. So to engage them by, and maybe airplane manufacturer is not the best example exactly, but again, the idea of giving teams a set objective and then giving them the trust and the strength and the tools to solve it on their own is often very effective at letting a team self-motivate, self-engage, and not only with the company and the product, but with each other, reliance on each other, and great things happen. And it goes back to the idea of results-driven management as opposed to just, high school principal stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. Nada, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Or did you want to add to it before I ask you a
No,
question?
I was the idea of autonomy, the basic need at the end that we all need. I mean, to feel a sense of empowerment and confidence. When you need to cultivate this, it's definitely autonomy. This is what I wanted to add, and it's perfect.
Yes, definitely. So I know I'm curious about transitions because yes, as Suli had pointed out and others have said, things have changed. We all thought we knew where we had a basic understanding of where we were all headed about 5 years ago. And so we thought we all knew where we're going. And then the pandemic comes and there's civil unrest and there's all sorts of political stuff and everything kind of like got shook up. And now we have no idea what's going to happen. Nada, what happens when plans don't unfold the way that we thought they would? Because we're all in that space right now.
Definitely, for sure. And it's not going to end. It's not going to end. And anyway, in life, you always go through different transitions. And the thing is, when I'm very much inspired by Hudson's work when he talks about life transitions. And when I work with my clients, I like to use the 4 seasons as a tool to explain the different phases we go through when we go through a transition, whether planned or not, or unwanted. And if we apply the recent pandemic, which has led to the Great Resignation that we're talking about today, the first phase will start with the fall. So the fall is when the pandemic hit. So we all felt scared and lost and out of sync, frustrated, stuck, angry, powerless. And then came the phase of winter. And during winter, we hibernate. It's we go through an inner journey. We tune in to ourselves. Sometimes we go through an identical crisis. Who am I without this job? Who am I without this person? It depends. We are in need of a new purpose. And what happened is that people realized that there was much more than what they settled for. And I like to talk after the phase of the winter phase, let's say, I like to talk about the post-transition growth. This is when growth happens. So it's spring, we are in the phase of spring, and there are new ideas that are blooming. We are exploring. We have no clear commitment, but we are motivated and we trust the process. Then come the phase of summer, where we have a new vision and the ideas are blooming and we are committed. We have a new sense of purpose. We feel more connected. We have a high energy and everything is more vibrant. We feel more aligned. And I think this is usually what we go through. It doesn't mean that we have to go through all those phases. Sometimes we don't have to go through an identity crisis and we go directly to spring because we feel we have a new purpose. But there is this tune in aspect that we have to go through when we go through a life transition like this one, like really pausing and seeing really inside what we want, how we want things to go, and what would be this new purpose that will motivate us again, give us back this energy to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Does
This
anybody have anything to add to that? Suli?
I love that perspective, Nada. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I really think that when you spoke about the energy, remember that we are in a global 24/7 world, and it's about having time to allow yourself time off so that you can integrate what you really are, so you can re-energize yourself and get to be what you really want to be. And it's like a re-energizing process that allows you to review your own programming and delete the program that no longer serves you. It's like,
Exactly.
why are we operating? I mean, this worked for me when I was a child. When my parents were uncertain about this, I'm still holding on to that. And it's not just about removing or forgetting about it and probably store it on your subconscious. It's about getting rid of it, delete, trash it, leave it open room for new changes. And
Yeah.
that's really what your cycles of
But
seasons are.
exactly.
Fantastic.
But the thing is that when we go through a life transition, usually we are very much into a survivor mode. Either we want to stay where we are and get like hooked up and don't want to let go, or we are very much stressed and we want to restitute whatever we have lost, or we want to get something new that can replace what we have lost. So we are, but with the pandemic, it took time, and the people had this time, so they had the time to go through this journey, and I think this is very different than usual transition that are unplanned, and we go through them because we have to, and let's find a solution now, or get stuck and stay stuck in where we are. So
but everybody didn't take the time to understand that.
No.
To really clean and clear what you no longer need, so that you can dedicate a new process without having the fixed plan that existed is no longer valid. So have a strategy in place, not only for your life, but for your business, so that you can move forward.
Totally. Yeah, sometimes we got to delete, and sometimes we definitely should learn from what's happening in our lives. Patricia, I see you've got your hand raised.
Yes, I heard, I don't remember who, it might have been you, Jimmy, that mentioned the word control. And I wanted to share something that's funny. I come from Argentina, and in Argentina, when you say hello to someone and you say, how are you? A very common response is, todo bajo control, everything under control. And I always laughed about that, because we can't control anything. And the world can change from, like this in a second. And life is about learning to live, knowing that we have nothing under control. The only thing that we can do is be flexible and prepared. And I want to share a poem from Lao Tse. I don't know it by memory, but the concept in the Tao Te Ching, that says that we need to learn to be like water. Water is very fluid, and it seems like it's very weak, but its fluidity and its weakness is its strength, because water can erode a rock. Water can take the shape of any container. Water can go under a door. Water can travel through, little cracks in a rock. Water can get into mud, and then it can evaporate and come back as rain, clean and pure again. So it can change and adapt, but it always continues to be water. And I think that that's the lesson for this great resignation, this reshuffle, that we can reinvent, we can change, we can go surf what is going on, but always connected to who we are, to to ourselves, and bring that into anything new that we do.
Yeah. Letting go.
When I tell when my clients come and tell me, okay, I want to work on my work-life balance, and I know this is what you do, Victor, and I usually tell them there is
Go
no
see
work-life
Victor.
balance. Yeah, now
let
I
me
tell them
refer
go to Victor, because usually I often said there is no work-life balance. I mean, today you feel that you have a balance, and tomorrow, bam, you have COVID, you have to work from home, your kids are at home, so you have to find in this balance, how can you, in this unbalanced life, how can you not be shaken by all of this? How can you feel grounded and centered in all of this? And this is creating resilience, I think.
That was the word I was going to
Bravo.
share. Resilience, building resilience. Yeah.
Building resilience is important. Huh?
Let us be reminded, to Patricia's point, that we are 60% water as human
Right.
beings. So we're
It's
already
true.
in the winning part of it. Just 40%, just bring it on. We can do this.
And our brain is 83% water.
Yeah, that's a lot of water.
83% is water.
And
So
83%
our cells,
negative.
well,
According to my smart scale, my body is 60%, 59% water.
yeah, it varies from 59 to 7, and average is 70.
But
But and
it is our nature to be fluid. It is our nature to be able to adapt to change.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got to be able to adapt. We've got to be resilient. All those things are 100% true. I know we're running close to time. I did want to ask anyone in the audience, if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat, or if you want to come off mute, I'd be happy to hear a question if anyone has. And while you're thinking of that, I have a question. So we talked a little bit about energy, and it made me think of something, because our energy ebbs and flows and whatnot. So if we think about energy, we think there's many different ways to think about it, right? So we can treat, one of the ways that we get energy is through food. So food is fuel. Depending on what kind of foods we put in us, depends on what kind of energy we're going to have, certainly. The interesting thing is, though, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this, but we need to shift the way we think about energy in ourselves, much like we need to shift the way we think about energy in the world. So we do a lot of oil and gas, there's nuclear, and there's all those things, but those are consumable. What is anyone's thought on the idea of renewable energy, like a solar, like a wind? Well, maybe more solar, and I know it goes, the night goes, but we need an energy system that's renewable for us humans. How do we do that? Come on, coaches, tell everybody how we do that.
I feel like that's the next version of PQ that we'll be getting to in about 3 years from now.
I'll call Shirzad and we'll work out a new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
well, I'm going to say that
It's a great question.
The new source of energy, if I may answer that question, is our ability to connect from within to the higher energy that really generated us all. And that ability to go from within and activating not only your power, but from your toes, from the ground, through your toes, through your gut, through your heart, through your mind, and connect to a higher power, because there is a higher power that really controls not only each of us, we are all connected. The moment that we change me to we start getting it. Just turn that letter around. Not about me, it's about we, because we are all connected in the greater power, where Earth is just a vessel, right? It's still floating within the galaxies, and we don't know enough about it. So I think that's important, how to generate your inner energy from a negative point, which is a catabolic energy, to a positive energy. And that's why I love PQ. I love the ability to create and change the energy that you can choose to show up by changing your thought, by changing your perspective. How do you put that all together? It's by working, because you don't exercise the knowledge, you lose it. It's like a muscle, a brain, a heart, a feeling, and all we are energy. The body has three forms of energy: thermal, mechanical, and the energy that we receive. So, and the mechanical, the thermal is the food, the mechanical is what moves us, and then there's a higher energy that controls everything, because we couldn't. Our minds were not able to command giving a step forward. And how we transform that is by understanding that we can empower ourselves. That's the next level.
Right on.
Yeah, right on.
We have to stop wasting our energy. And the biggest waste of energy is repressing what we know is true, but we don't want to face. And that happens at home, and it happens in businesses. It's like when you are in a swimming pool and you have a ball and you want to keep the ball under the surface, and you can only keep it there for a few seconds, because at some point it will slip in between your fingers and go up the surface again. That's the same thing. It's a waste of energy to even try to keep it there under the water. So sometimes in a business environment, we know something is going on. We don't have the skills or the abilities that we need to communicate that in a productive way. So we just try to hold it under the surface. Right. And one of the things that are necessary is to develop that capacity to communicate in a productive way, so that we don't have to waste that energy there.
Yeah.
That's so important, what you're saying. Sorry, Eric.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted to build on what Patricia was saying, right? I mean, the energy of suppression and repression, I mean, absolutely. It goes to just what you were saying about water and flow, everything under control. Well, let's make the mantra, everything out of control, and not devote the energy to the misguided belief that things are in control, so bravo, well put.
I think that when we talk about energy and what was saying Patricia is very interesting, because when we focus on prioritizing our energy on certain things that are important for us, so avoid burnout and putting boundaries, knowing what are our boundaries, what are our value. I think these are the most important things to save energy, to save our energy, and to be able to be as authentic and good with others. Because if your cup, like we say, if your cup is not full of energy and your vase is not like
overflow.
Help me with the word. Exactly. Then you cannot be able to. You don't have the energy to sustain or to be with the others, and or with your kids or with your colleagues or anyone.
So true.
So,
yeah.
Voilà.
No, I agree, and I think I love what Patricia said about the the recycling, and the greatest waster of energy is repression. And in order for us to keep that energy up, like Nada's saying, we have to, there's two, right? There's two great wasters. One is repression, and the other one is rumination. And
Exactly.
Individuals, like, we spiral hard if we let ourselves do it. But the same thing happens, just like you all were saying, in businesses. So it's not just the repression. Rumination happens all the time, because they go, in two different ways, right? They say, well, that's just the way we've always done it. And so they ruminate about that thing. And that's also a little repression in there as well. Or we think about, as a business, as leaders, how are we ruminating about the past? And that was bad, and I shouldn't have done that. So not only as individuals in our personal lives, but also in our professional lives, and businesses as a whole, as an organization, have a tendency to do that as well. I know we only have a few minutes left, so I would love to get, in about 30 seconds, each of you have 30 seconds to help our folks out here in the audience. I'm going to start with Victor. Victor, what is one thing that you would love to see? What opportunity would you love to see come out of this Great Resignation?
Great opportunity to love ourselves more in a
Mm.
holistic way as it relates to our well-being. When we love us more, we're going to energize the rest of the world with the love. So I'll leave you with that. Love you more.
Love you more, Victor. Patricia.
One word, authenticity.
Mm.
I think that's the key, the heart of everything.
Excellent. Nada.
I would say I have two things. Can I say two things?
Sure, you can say two things.
First, I would say radical acceptance,
Mm.
because when we are in a state of accepting things the way they are, then we are in a process, we enter a process of creativity and finding solutions and moving on. And the second thing, because you were talking about ruminating, when we ruminate, it means that we worry, right? And I have a quote that I always use, is that worrying is like being on a rocking chair. It gets you to do something, but it doesn't get you anywhere.
It's a lot of activity and no movement.
Exactly.
Good one, Nada.
Totally. I love it. And Suli.
Well, I think allowing says a lot.
Mm.
Allow others, allow new techniques, allow new things, and learn how to use the resilience from every challenge you meet. Make that into a great opportunity for growth.
I love it. So well put. Eric, wrap it up, baby.
Yeah. Well, I'll wrap it up from sort of, again, the business, the business leader's perspective, and this is even as I write it and say it, it sounds a little bit old school, but listen to your people, listen to the people that report to you, the people that are in your company, the collective wisdom within organizations. And by listen, I don't mean ask and listen. I mean, observe. I mean, feel. I mean, understand. Listen to your people. That is depending on what kind of organization you have or what kind of company, they all need different things, but the collective wisdom of the people who are there showing up every day on Zoom or in person, that can lead the way. So just like we always say, just like we're always taught, listen, just shut up and listen. Same thing.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure. I have loved this conversation today. Thank you so much for participating. You guys are all amazing coaches. I love being friends with you colleagues, and this is fantastic. So thank you so much for your time today, your intelligence, your brilliance, and your great energy. I love it. I see, before we go, I've got a couple of superstars out in the audience as well. Well, everybody out in the audience is a superstar, but I have two in particular. I've got Valeska and Misha Gay, and I'm just curious if either one of them would like to say a word before we bounce out of here.
Lord have mercy. You all have the creative juices in me flowing like crazy right now. I applaud each and every one of you. What a panelist. And I think by the attendance that we have today speaks for itself. Jimmy, just bear with me as we go through the rest of this year planning. A great job, great discussion, and I just applaud each and every one of you. I love the one word, authenticity. That's my badge of honor, authenticity. And I call us coaches superheroes. So I hope each and every one of you were able to glean something from this and just be inspired by your own thought and motivated to just go out there and put on your cape. This is, especially right now. We're the superheroes of this time. Thank you.
Thank
Did
you,
a
Misha.
great job, Jimmy, moderating. Thank you.
By the way, your hair looks amazing. I love your new hair.
Thank you. Thank you. Trying to lift the energy here.
You're doing it.
Thank you.
Valeska.
It's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. I'm not going to take more of time. Thank you, everybody. I think was amazing. I saw the effort and the work that you put in this, just, bringing so different perspectives was amazing. And I really can see that we are not in a rocking chair here. That is not definitely a rocking chair. That is great. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
One more quick thing. If we don't have a survey, I'd like for a survey to go out. I'd like to see more of our membership body like this. And it looks good on each and every one of you. I'm so proud, so proud.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Madam President. We appreciate your leadership and your support. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to ask the panelists to stay on. Don't jump off just yet. We're going to
Bye,
debrief for
Shannon.
2
Bye,
minutes.
Isabel.
But everybody else, thank you so
Bye.
much. Really appreciate
you.
everyone's
Bye,
attendance
Tisha. Bye,
today.
Valeska.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Charles.